could you tell us about your engagement and the beginnings of wedding planning for you guys?
I think for me, I mean, it's definitely was a lot to take in, because I think planning a wedding during a pandemic is enough of a stressor. And then we kind of had this added on thing with both of our families. So the health issues one was mainly my mom. She actually ended up going to the hospital like the month after we got engaged. And so it was just like a super up and down time. But I think with wedding planning, yeah, just really starting from, kind of taking whatever the restrictions were at the time, and then kind of going from, okay, what can we do versus what can't we do, and trying to find that. And it was important for us. It really, I think, put into perspective what was most important. Like, it made us choose, like, okay, what are our absolute things that we have to have as part of our wedding? What people do we need to be there? And so I think from that perspective, it was okay because it narrowed down a lot of options, because most of them we couldn't have. But at the same time, there's still so many ways you can do a wedding, even in COVID times. So I think from that standpoint, it was kind of like, okay, what we want to get married, we want to do it during this time, what's the most important? I'd say that's kind of my perspective anyway.
So positive. What is your favorite resource that you would recommend for couples who are planning their wedding in Hawaii?
Resource? Like, Instagram. Like, specifically in Hawaii?
Yeah, I would say, yeah.
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 Instagram and friends. Word of mouth. I would hear about companies I'd never heard of through conversations of people who were planning their wedding or getting married, or is Instagram a bad answer? What did we use?
Pinterest?
Well, just planning your wedding in Hawaii. So if you use Pinterest a lot, then, it was a good resource for you.
Okay, yeah, we used Pinterest. Etsy was helpful.
Yeah.
Because recreate things that we saw, so we didn't have to buy it, or find things for a lot cheaper than, I don't know, Amazon or like a different company that we would have to order from online.
I think what you said too with the people, like, those are good mechanisms to get ideas from, like, in a big sense, but like the actual nuts and bolts, like going to couples that we knew who had gotten married either recently or anything like that, just to know. Like, we talked to one couple that did a hotel wedding. Like, we knew of other couples who were doing other kinds of venues, and just kind of getting the pros and cons of that from personal experience. Because I think that's the biggest thing, I think, that impacted us as far as, getting down to the nitty gritty of choosing vendors, choosing venues, is like Ken was saying, like, it's one thing to see it on Instagram and how beautiful it is, but it's another thing to like ask the couple, like, well, how was like the back end, how was the service? Like, did you guys, enjoy working with the planner? Did you guys enjoy, that kind of stuff? Because there's so many things that go on behind the scenes.
So how was that, and how did you like narrow down your choices, not just with the venue, but with your other vendors as well?
Price.
Yeah. A lot of it was budget based. I think I think Caitlin really did an amazing job of curating the vibe of what we wanted the wedding to feel like and be like, as far as color scheme and theme, as far as design wise. Like, we didn't have a themed wedding, but there was definitely like, okay, this is the vibe, this is what we're looking for. And then from that, we were able to look into, do our research and see like, oh, like, we want this kind of backdrop for our sweetheart table, or we want this kind of lighting. And then kind of going from there and being like, okay, maybe we can't afford that much of that lighting, but what can we do to at least have some of the elements of the vision, and kind of go from like, okay, this is, if we had unlimited money, like, this is what we could do, and then kind of go from there.
But in the very beginning of our engagement, we were just looking, I think, mostly on Instagram, HNL Studios website was really helpful because you guys have that page of different venues, and some of the places I didn't even know existed in Hawaii. So just like starting there really was helpful. And just narrowing down, like, did we want indoor? Did we want outdoor? Did we want hotel? Did we want house? Like, we kind of put everything out there, and I think we only visited 2 or 3 venues.
If you could just share, like, what did you guys feel were like the most important vendors that you ended up choosing?
The most important vendors? Can I answer? Photography and videography.
Yeah.
Anything?
I mean, for me, it's food, but I think definitely, photography and videography, just because we knew it was a moment that, would go by so quickly. So we wanted to make sure that we had both videography and photography to really capture the moment. And especially since we couldn't have our full guest list there for those of our family or friends who like couldn't make it or we couldn't invite because, we just had to make those hard decisions, which that was also a really hard part of planning, was finalizing that guest list. I think that was a big deal for us, is for our memories, but also to be able to share it with those that weren't able to be there in person.
Definitely. And it feels like pandemic weddings are the norm for the time being.
Yeah.
So it seems like it's gonna keep going, and but I feel like people are going to learn lessons from those who have been able to like navigate it as well, because everything does keep on changing.
Yeah, I'm just couples can get married now and like have their wedding, and that the industry is open for like businesses and all you folks. Like, that was not fun.
If you could give advice to like people who are planning, I mean, you shared a lot earlier, but if you could tell them something, like anyone who's starting to plan it, what do you share with them?
Go at your own pace. I think from a girl's perspective or the bride's perspective, like I said earlier, we're trying to get everything done, but fully like explore venues, explore photographers. Don't just go with the cheapest option or the one that is all inclusive. Like, you get this one day to do this. So if it takes more time than you want it to, that's okay. And to just enjoy it as much as possible. I mean, hopefully you have a partner or fiance that is willing to be a part of the process and like wants to be involved.
For me, I think speaking from the groom side of things, I think just having the understanding that there's a lot of pressure for the bride, whether you like it or not. There's a lot of pressure on that side of things, whether that's warranted or really fair or not. Like, that's just normally how it is. It's kind of assumed that, the bride's going to be the planner. The bride is, it has to be everything that the bride wants, which is true. But I think the mistake that I made initially was I'd be like, oh yeah, it's your day, it's your day, it's your day, and not giving things that I actually wanted and contributing a lot of my ideas, because I was like, oh no, I want to make sure that she's the one happy, which is good. But at the same time, it is a collaboration. It's both of our days. So it should never be like one person's say over the other person's say. It definitely has to be like, okay, these are some options. Like, what do you think? Like, always being ready to give genuine input and show that you're invested. Like, there was definitely times for sure when it's like, we're both like, do you even want to do this with me? Because I'd be like so passive because I wanted her to choose what she wanted. But I think that was the biggest takeaway for me, is from the groom side, make sure to give good input, be supportive, and all those things. Don't just let the bride do it all.